here frequently enough, and whenever I come and it comes time for me to leave, the Gaguim for Eretz Yisrael are strong, and Ashreichem, those of you who are zeichet to be here for an extended period, hopefully until Bias Mashiach. I'd like to share with you today an understanding of a nevuah of Zakaria. Zakaria was a Navi. The last three Nevi'im were Chagai, Zakaria, Malachi. Zakaria was a Navi at the beginning of the Bayis Sheni. And in the seventh parak of Zakaria is split nearly evenly between Prakim, in which she has Marais, in which she sees visions, different types of visions that are somewhat mysterious and explained. And the second half of Zakaria, which is more along the style of the Nevi'im and describing things that took place in his time period. Perek Zayin begins as follows. Bear in mind now that most of Klal Yisrael is still in Chutz La'aretz. Some Yidden had come up to Eretz Yisrael to build the Bayis Sheni, a small percentage of Klal Yisrael that came, and they were in Eretz Yisrael, and a message comes from Bavel. And the pasuk tells us, "He b'shnas arba leDaryavesh hamelech, ha'yidvar Hashem Zakaria." Zakaria gets the following nevuah to be related to Klal Yisrael, and the nevuah is telling about something that happened. V'yishlach beisel sheretz v'regem melech v'anoshav l'chales es pnei Hashem. A message came from Bavel. Rashi says, "Anoshim tzadikim hayu." These were good people, and they sent a message. Sholchu mi Bavel l'kreiveim shebebeisel lovei l'chales es pnei Hashem. They sent a message from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael through relatives to ask the following shaila. Leimar el hakohanim asher lebeis Hashem tzavakos ve'el haneviim leimar ha'efke b'chodesh hachamishi he nozer. There's the shaila. What was the shaila? Should I continue to mourn on Tisha B'Av, on Chodesh HaChamishi, on Tisha B'Av? He nozer, Lashon Nazir. Should I separate myself from food and drink? The Metzudah says, "Hu adin kol arbat saimais, va'ochzu ha'chomesh bekulan." The pasuk just picks Tisha B'Av as an example, but it means they asked the shaila whether they should continue to fast on Tisha B'Av in the tkufa of the Bayis Sheni. So this is what takes place here in the seventh parak of Zakaria. The shaila is asked. The question is why the shaila was sent to the Navi Hashem. Again, reading from the Metzudas, they sent Hem Yechalu Pnei Hashem, which is the pasuk, Lashpia Nevuah Ala Kayin VaNeviim Sheyimtzu Ma'an. You don't need a nevuah to answer a shaila. It's a lamdish shaila. You started fasting because there was a churban, and the churban is over. There's a Bayis Sheni being built. So, in effect, it's a shaila. The Sugya Tainus talks about people who are fasting for rain, and in the middle of the day of fast, it starts raining. Do they have to continue fasting? So it's a shaila. Well, why are they sending to Nevi'im? What does that have to do with Nevi'im? It doesn't seem to be a shaila that ideally would be asked to a Navi. Second nakuda is that the Bayis Sheni did not quite have everything the Bayis Rishon had. The Gemara says that there were 5 things that the Bayis Sheni did not have. Not just 5 things, but Ikrim, the Oren, the Oren V'Tumim, the Shechina, the Ruach HaKodesh, the Eish Min HaShamayim. The Bayis Sheni was missing much of what the Bayis Rishon had. It wasn't really a return to the way it was originally. They didn't have Roiv Yisrael Alad Mosam. They didn't have a majority of Klal Yisrael in Eretz Yisrael. We learn this from a pasuk in Chagai. Chagai is before Zakaria. Chagai tells Klal Yisrael, build the Beis HaMikdash. And this is the pasuk he says, in Perek Aleph, pasuk Ches, Elul HaHar, go up to the mountain. Which mountain? The one down the road here. Mountain the Harabayas. Elul HaHar, go up to the mountain. Vavesem eitz ubenu habayis, and bring wood and build the Beis HaMikdash. Ve'ert sebai, he's saying in the Nevuah, Koyamar Hashem. Ve'ert sebai, and I will find my rotzin, it'll be fine favor in my eyes. Ve'ekabdah, and I will give an honor, Amar Hashem. Ekabdah is spelled without a hey. At the end, it should have Aleph, Chav, Beis, Dalet, hey. The hey is missing, so Rashi brings from the Gemara, Chaser hey. Kenegeh chamisha davarim shahayu b'mikdash rishon v'lo yahayu b'mikdash sheni. This needs explanation. If you want to tell me that the Bayis Sheni didn't have what the Bayis Rishon had, and the Navi wants to be Meramiz it, a remez, by missing a hey, you have plenty of words that could be missing a hey to show the remez. Ve'ekabda means I will give an honor. Mamish the opposite. It's the wrong word to say it'll be missing 5 things. Ekabda, I'll give an honor, it'll be missing 5 things. The missing 5 things is the hepach of giving it honor. Seems to be that it's in that the remez is in the incorrect place. So this also needs a biur. The Abarbanel says in Zakaria that was the shaila. Should we fast in the Bayis Sheni or not? It's still missing things that the Bayis Rishon didn't have. And that was the question that was asked. Now again, it needs a biur why such a question was asked after to a Navi, and try to have a Havana. The time of the Bayis Sheni was very confusing. They had permission to build the Bayis Sheni. Barbanel says that they didn't have Malchus Beis David. They were still under the Malchus of Paras U'Madai, still under the control of a Gaisha government. And there was a call for Yidden to come up and build. And they didn't come. They didn't come. 60,000 Jews came, including the first time they came and the second time they came. And it was missing the Chamisha Devarim. It was a confusing time. Where was Klal Yisrael headed? Where were we going? Well, what exactly is happening to us? It was a confusion. There was a lack of clarity. Like I'm on a train, but where's the train headed? Where's it going? See, here I am. I'm part of a time in history when you're not going back to Eretz Yisrael, building a Bayis Sheni, and we're in Bavel. And Bavel has the bigger community than Eretz Yisrael. What is happening? What's going on? It's a confusing time. Is it a time to stop fasting Tisha B'Av? We're still living Golus Bavel. It was a time of great confusion. Halacha needs a Sanhedrin. Confusion needs a Navi. Where are we? What's going on? What's happening to us? When we live in a period of time, we don't know historically, where do we fit in the history of Klal Yisrael? What's going to happen after our lifetime? How is the flow from the previous Golus to the period of Bayis Sheni going to go? It was a period of tremendous confusion. I saw once from the Megala Amukas, in the 1600s, he relates an incident at Din Torah that came to him. Reuven and Shimon came to a Din Torah, and they related the following. Ruvain was sitting and learning. He was a Talmid Chacham that sat and learned. And Shimon was a businessman. He was a comfortable person, Erlich Yid. He was in the business world. So Shimon comes out of Shachris and he sees Ruvain is selling lachmaniot. He's selling rolls. He says to him, Ruvain, why are you in the bakery business? So Ruvain tells him, no, I'm in yeshiva all day. I'm in sitting and learning all day. I'm the first Seder, the second Seder, the ninth Seder. I come home at night. I put up a dough. I eat supper. I bake my rolls. And after Shachris, I stand there, however long it takes me to sell my rolls, I stand there. And then I head back to my next day to sitting and learning. So Shimon says to Ruvain, how much money do you make already from this basket full of rolls? So he told him, whatever, let's say 50 groshim, whatever the coins were. So Shimon says, look, I'll give you 50 groshim. I'll give you every week, I'll give you, and just sit and learn. Don't be busy with this. So Ruvain was masking. Ruvain was masking to take the money and stop being in the lachmaniot business. 2 weeks later, Shimon comes out of Shachris and he sees Vaita, Ruvain selling rolls. He says to Ruvain, what are you doing? We have a deal. So Ruvain says, I want to tell you something. Until you came along, every night I came home from learning. I was tired. I put up a dough. I said, Rabbeinu Shalom, please let the dough not turn sour. Let the dough be good. I'm exhausted to put up another dough. Let it come out just right. And then I ate supper and I went back to my dough and I put it in the oven. And I begged the Rabbeinu Shalom, it shouldn't burn, it should bake just right. I'm exhausted, I can't start all over again. And then in the morning, I davened early, I went to sell my rolls, and I said, Rabbeinu Shalom, I want to go to Beis Medrash. I begged the Rabbeinu Shalom to help me sell the rolls as quickly as I can. So he said, I felt such a non-kite to the Rabbeinu Shalom every night. I cried to him. I cried to him out of exhaustion. And I had this closeness to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And you took it away from me. You took it away. You give me money. I don't put up the dough. I don't bake the dough. I don't sell the rolls. I give you your money back. I'd rather do this. Magal Amukas makes the point that very often a closeness to the Rabbeinu Shalom comes from feeling a tzarech, from things not being easy, not being something that goes with the ease of somebody giving you the money. The cheshivas of a relationship with the Rabbeinu Shalom is very often comes from feeling a need, from a leiv nishbar v'nitka, from somebody who is having a challenge. And there's a story about the Chafetz Chaim meeting the Gerer Rebbe at the Knessia. And there are two versions of the story depending on whether you read it in a Litvische Sefer or a Chassidische Sefer. Either the Chafetz Chaim said the answer or the Gerer Rebbe said the following answer, depending on which version you read. Whether either of them said it, I don't know, but probably it was one or the other. The way it goes is that the Chafetz Chaim asked the Gerer Rebbe. The pasuk says, I think it's the last week's parashah, in Parshas Rei, Achrei Hashem Elokechem Telechu. You should follow HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Achrei Hashem. The whole Sefer Devarim has many such expressions. Achrei Hashem Elokechem Telechu. So he asked him. The Gemara says that there's a difference between the word acher and acharei. Acher Dvar Ma'ela means close to the previous episode. Acher means after, And achrei means after. Achar is close to the previous. And achrei is far. So what does it mean? Achrei Hashem Elokeichem telechu. You should follow Hashem from the distance, from far away. Baisid bakun. You should try to be as close to him as you could. What's achrei Hashem Elokeichem telechu? So the answer that sort of is, I guess, the punchline of the story is that when a person realizes he's far from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's when he's close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When a person realizes the distance and his heart yearns for closeness to the Rabbeinu Shalom, when he feels the challenge of drawing close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's when a person is able to feel to actually draw close to the Rabbeinu Shalom. The point is that in the relationship with the Bari Olam, it's very often the Leiv Nishbar V'Nidke, it's not pshat, or it's not only pshat, that Hashem sees someone with a broken heart, so Hashem has Rahmanis on him. It's more than that. It's that a person who comes with Leiv Nishbar V'Nidke, somebody who comes with a feeling of inadequacy, a person who has a desire to be close to the Bari Olam but is not, very often he's the one that's able to feel a closeness, to be close to the Bari Olam, to have a non-kai. We discovered that having things easy doesn't make a person Yirei Shamayim. A generation that tries to raise their children, just give them everything easy, and then they'll steig. Lav dafka. Torah l'nimtza ela b'bnei aniyim, Chazal say. People who have certain challenges. When it's a confusing time, there's a certain ability to draw close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Certain ability to develop a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When things are not so clear, when a person doesn't know exactly where he's headed, what's going on, what's happening. Now, Bahala is not good. But when a person has a certain amount of lack of clarity, it's an opportunity. It's really an opportunity. Yeshaya Navi says, Rabim b'nei Shemema b'nei Habu'ula Amar Hashem. Rabbi Hashem says, Rabim b'nei Hashmuma Gedolim hekimu lahem b'churbanam yesem b'binyanam. Imagine, Yeshaya says, there are more Yidden became Gedolei Yisroel during the times of Churban than the times of Binyan. Incredible thing. Rabim, tzadikim, the Lashon tzadikim, heishav lahem, b'churbanam yasem b'binyanam. A certain aspect of Avodas Hashem that taka comes from a period where things are confusing. There's a lack of clarity in what's going on around you. Our generation is a generation of frazzled nerves. It's a generation of a lot of confusion, a lot of stress. It's part of the natural order of the generation that HaKadosh Baruch Hu parked us in. There's so much more available, and therefore there's so much more confusion. It's part of the world that we live in. There are more therapists today than there ever were. And they're needed because the times are confusing. The expectations are very, very different. And now we see in the last years that the whole situation of wars in the world is changing. A war used to be for conquest. You used to try to capture someone else's land. World War I, World War II, the war in Korea, the war in Vietnam, all the normal wars of of the history of the world, from Nimrod, the Arba Malachim Esachamisha, are wars to capture land or to defend yourself from someone who wants to capture your land. That's the nature of a Mulchama. We're seeing in front of our eyes a world in which war is shooting missiles and drones, doing things that don't seem to have any connection to capturing land, to taking over land, the normal sense of war. The wars are to dispirit, to make people unhappy, to inflict damage on an enemy. It's a change, really, in the way the world had functioned. The whole mahus of the world we live in is a mahus of a world that deals with feelings of people, with making people discouraged, making people unhappy, to try to get people to rebel against their own government. It's a different world. The whole world is a world that's living, that's built around confusion, about lack of clarity, about lack of happiness, about being upset. It's a world of turbulence, a lot of turbulence, a lot of bumping around. U'zecha Baruch Hashem, to have, as individuals, for the most part, stable lives in the sense of the Doros before us. Physically, our lives are stable. It's hard to believe. 100 years ago, that's not a lot in history. 100 years ago, in mid-1920s, people in Yerushalayim here, were dying from hunger. Literally dying from hunger. The Har Tzvi lost a child to hunger. Chafetz Chaim aborted his second attempt to come to Eretz Yisrael. In his letters, in the history books, it doesn't say why, but his letters that were published, he writes, there's not enough food for people in Yerushalayim. I know if I go, they'll make sure I have what to eat, but it's not right to have more mouths in Yerushalayim than there's food. 100 years ago. 100 years later, Baruch Hashem, Kadosh Baruch Hu has given us an abundance. Yet, I assure you, there were fewer therapists per capita in Yerushalayim 100 years ago than there are today. The confusion of the time, and confusion, I don't mean that things are easy or things are hard, but the whole idea of it being a confusing and difficult time, it's an assign to every individual to pick himself up and to see a clear derech in the direction that he's going, and to be able to be an Oved Hashem. On the plane, Baruch Hashem, it's become normal to have minyanim. Used to be much more, there were bigger difficulties given by the staff. But on my flight here, we had a minyan, probably 80 people davening Shachris together. It was very pleasant. But I noticed every time I fly that as soon as the minyan starts, the pilot makes turbulence. He puts on the seatbelt sign. And I guess it's the way to do it. I doubt it's the Borei Olam that gives turbulence every time you start, but seatbelt sign always goes on, you'll notice. There's like a signal to the front around Shemoneh Esrei time. The turbulence. Turbulence is fine. I don't say to do dangerous things. But sometimes I'm davening Shemoneh Esrei on the plane and holding on to the wall. And I think that when the Talmidei Hagra came to Eretz Yisrael on rickety boats, they probably also had turbulence on the way. Probably also, the boat was probably rocking back and forth. And I'm sure the stewardesses on the boat were making fun of the Shemoneh Esrei as well. So identify. See, turbulence is okay if you can handle it. if you can handle it. It's not okay if you can't handle it. If it causes panic, and I don't mean mid-year turbulence, I mean midlife turbulence. The challenges, the periods of confusion, it's a very, very difficult thing to do. I think that's why we suddenly have, I am sure the sincere, well-meaning people with this B'tachin movement. In America, we have a B'tachin hotline. Here I see they have comics with B'tachin stories. The most absurd silliness you would think an intelligent people like Klal Yisroel would believe. The magazine here tells how everything they give a name. The names may or may not be true. They don't give a phone number. About how someone poured grape juice for Kiddush and it was sour. So he told his children, let's all have betachin, Hashem is the Kol Yachol, and then it'll turn sweet. And explains they all had betachin, Kol Yachol, and they sang a song, and it was sweet. The grape juice was sweet for the rest of the trip, for the rest of the Shabbos. There are many stories like this, stories about how the people just, he had to make a phone call, and his phone, the zero was broken on his phone. He told his son, let's say, Einay Milvadoi, and bang, and the phone worked. Why he didn't do it the day before when it was broken, it doesn't explain, but okay. Like there's a foolishness, silly ideas that, why do people go into it? You know why? Because turbulence is no good. Inconvenience is no good. There has to be easy way out. There has to be easy way out. We see it sometimes with people who have children that misbehave in school. The parents want to take them to a psychiatrist, get a pill, and suddenly they'll be good. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. You have to, it's hard work to raise children. It's very challenging to raise children. It's not so bad. And, I speak to boys who got thrown out of the Mesifta, and I tell them it happened to me too. Not because I did what you did, I just got in trouble because I was playing basketball during. But turbulence is normal. Confusion is normal in life. A person has to deal with it. A person has to be able to move forward with it. It's not that you have to find a quick answer, a quick resolution, and solve your issues and bang, and everything goes smoothly. It just doesn't work that way. And in our generation, it seems that there's a greater aversion, a greater fear of the confusion, which so much is part of life, and a very, very difficult to deal with. Let me tell you the rest of the story. I told you about Zakaria. The people are confused. Where are we headed? Where are we? Do we fast on Tisha B'Av? Don't we fast on Tisha B'Av? What's the answer? So they asked the beginning of Perek Zayin. The Navi doesn't come back to answer until the middle of Perek Ches. Perek Ches, it's a Perek and Psukim later. V'hi devar Hashem tzavokos Elai leimor. Zakaria says, I got nevuah. Chayamar Hashem tzavokos. Tzayma Ravi, v'tzayma Chamishi, v'tzayma Shvi, v'tzayma Asiri. The fast of Shavasa B'Tammuz and Tisha B'Av and Tzayim Gedalia, Asar B'Tevis. Yiu lebeis Yehuda l'sasayin u'lesimcha u'l'mayadim tovim. There will be for Klal Yisrael times of rejoicing. V'emes v'hasholem ehavu, on the condition that emes v'sholem ehavu, that you live lives of emes and sholem. So it sounds like the answer is don't fast. Now actually the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah and Daf Yud Ches says not so simple. Gemara says it still calls it a tzaim. Tzaim Ravi, l'sasim l'sim. Gemara asks in tzaim, what does it mean? Is it a tzaim or a sasai? So the Gemara answers that it depends. It depends. It says that when there's sasim v'simcha, then the Gemara's lashon is when there's shalom. When there's shalom, then you don't fast. If it ain't shalom, then you do fast. It depends. He's telling him in the Bayis Sheni, it depends on where you are. Depends where you are in the Bayis Sheni. There'll be times of shalom and times of tzayim. Amazing Rashba. The Rashba says that he was saying, now I would think, every year Bezdin will paskin, the Sanhedrin will paskin, this is a year of tzayim, you fast, this is a year of shalom. No, the Rashba says, if an individual, a yachid, if he feels b'shalom, if he feels that things are calm, so he doesn't fast. He can do sasim v'simcha. And those Yidden who feel the Shas Torah and the Tzayim, those Yidden, they do fast, incredibly. And the Rashba says, even Bizman Hazeh, it's this way. Now, before you run to use the heter, the Ritva says that Kvar Kiblu Alayu. It really should be that way, but Klal Yisrael already, we fast. But the Rashba is saying an incredible thing. It's not the Rashba. He's saying Zakaria told Klal Yisrael, you're telling me it's a time of confusion. It's a time of Bahala. What do we do? Answers Zakaria, it depends on you. It depends on you. It's a time of challenge. The whole Bayis Sheni was a time of challenge. It depends on you. If you're b'shalva, if you're b'shalom, so you don't have to fast. If you're b'tzayim, if you're ein shalom, if you don't have the shalom. Now, of course, there could be times there'll be zero shalom. There could be times of war. But overall, the Rav said an incredible thing. That means they sent from Chutz La'aretz, what do we do? We're confused. Where are we headed? Are these good times? Are these bad times? We're missing 5 things. Where are we? So it depends. When it's confusing, it depends. Depends what you make of it. Rabbi b'nei Hashemema b'nei Ha'bu'ula, Amar Hashem. A lot of people can find times of challenge to make opportunity out of it. Opportunity out of it. They can beg HaKadosh Baruch Hu that the dough rises properly. And it doesn't rise properly every day. You don't sell all the lachmaniyot every day. It's turbulence. But it depends on a person's ability to deal with it. It's incredible. Between these two nevuos of Zakaria, I told you, at the beginning of Perek Zayin, he has the Shaila. In Perek Ches, Pasuk Yud Ches, he answers, what's in between? In between, in the beginning of Perek Ches, on nevuos, famous nevuah, Koyam Hashem Tzavakos, Od Yeshlu Zakenim Uzakenos B'Rechaves Yerushalayim, V'ish Mishante B'Yadei Me'Roiv Yamim. Before this became a song, it was my favorite pasuk in Zakaria. Koyamar Hashem, imagine. In times of Churban, the Rebbe says, Od Yeshu Zakenim Uzakenes B'Rechavis Yerushalayim. Old people will live here. Who came? Who made the walk from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael? Not the Zakenim and Zakenes. Rechavis here, Yamalu Yaladim V'Yalades Mesachkim B'Rechavis. Beautiful. Baruch Hu heads. He says, Kayamer Hashem Tzavakos. Kashazamamti lohara lochem. Just like there were times that you were punished. Bahaktzev avisechem ha'isi Amar Hashem Tzavakos. Ken shafti zamamti b'yamam ha'el lahetev es Yerushalayim. There'll be good days in Yerushalayim. But Ela dvar meshetasu, dabru emes ishes re'eyu, emes u'mishpat, shalom shiftu b'shareichem, v'ish es ra'as re'eyu al tashuvu b'lvavchem. You want to be in Yerushalayim and have shalom, have sasim v'simcha, I'll tell you what you have to do. This is what you have to do. So, you have to be in Yerushalayim. Dabru emes ishes re'eyu. Speak properly, truthfully. Emes u'mishpat shalom shiftu b'shareichem. Have honesty. Ishes ras re'eyu al tashkuvu b'vavchem. Not don't speak lashon hara. Ishes ras re'eyu, a person, the beard of his friend, al tashkuvu b'vavchem. Don't think in your hearts. Lashon hara, of course, is us. Ki kol leila shesanesi nom Hashem. And the next pasuk is Koyam Hashem Tzayim Ravi V'Tzayim Chamishi V'Tzayim Ashri V'Tzayim Asiri Yilu Beis Yehuda L'Sasin L'Simcha V'Emes V'Hashalem Ehavu. It's a challenge. It's a challenge of a dar. We live in a dar that's not challenged, Baruch Hashem, with famine or hunger. It's a dar, Baruch Hashem, we have air conditioning. I like to tell my grandchildren, I like to ask them, when they're old enough to know who Rothschild was. Rothschild was supposedly the richest Jew. Would you trade places with Rothschild? Of course. All the money in the world. I tell them Rothschild didn't have air conditioning. There's no air conditioning by Rothschild. When it was hot, he schwitzed. Now he could afford to have slaves waving their fans in front of him. But he had no air conditioning, really no air conditioning. See, and he had no cars. He had no cars. He had to go in a wagon pulled by a horse, really. And then the kicker, I tell them, and there was no plumbing. He had an outhouse. None of them want to switch places with Rothschild. I don't even tell them there were no pizza stores. We live in very, very special times. And we don't know where we're heading. Nobody knows where Klal Yisrael is heading. We daven for Mashiach. We see Rahman al-Islan, machlokes within Klal Yisrael. Machlokes from enemies we could deal with. But Rahman al-Islan, Ishes ras chaveiroi al tachshavu. Don't think. It's a confusing time. The avodah of the time is an avodah of dealing with the turbulence in a healthy way, in a way to bring you to come closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in a way that brings us closer. There are things around you that make you sad. What is depression? Depression is focusing on the negative. You have to focus on the positive that you have in your lives. We all need to think about the aspects of our lives that make us happy. You have to think of a connection to a Borei Olam and the challenges that we have. Sometimes things are challenging. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he wants you to deal with it. He doesn't want you to take a pill and make it go away. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants you to deal with it. The Panovich HaRav had a relationship with Ben Gurion, the time of the founding of the state. So he related that Ben Gurion once told him, Ben Gurion once said to him, Ein ma lidog. There's nothing to worry about. Yeshlanu bitachon. We have security. Ein ma lidog, yeshlanu bitachon. So Panovich HaRav said, Yeshlanu bitachon. The way the Yeshivalites say it. Yeshlanu bitachon. So Ben Gurion told him, Oto davar, bitachon, bitachon. He said, Lo, echad mila'el, ve'echad milara. For those of you who know what that means, mila'el is when you pronounce a bitachon in the beginning of the word. Bitachon is called milara at the end of the word. Bitachon is mila'el, from upstairs. Bitachon, that's milara, that's not what we look to. It's the avodah. The avodah is to be able to deal with the confusion, to deal with the uncertainties of life. I had discussed to have some small amount of shimush by Dr. Greenwald. Dr. Greenwald was a yid that was a psychologist, a Muncie, who had shimush by the Stipler. Rav Pam sent me to him to learn whatever little bit I could pick up. So he told me one of the Stipler's klolim, it's in a sefer, he has a sefer on these things. He said one of the klolim of the Stipler, of the, what he called tu'usim ashchichim, common mistakes. People get upset. People have a tzara. They don't have an eitzah. So they come up with some far-fetched eitzah. They say, let's do this. And the wife says to him, is that a good idea? He says, no. But what else are we going to do? He said, don't do something because what else am I going to do? In life, sometimes you go through turbulent parts of life, and that's what they did by the Egel. By the Egel, they said, where's my Rabbeinu? I couldn't figure it out. Someone said, let's make a golden calf. He says, is that a good idea? Not a good idea, but what else are you going to do? What they should have done is take a nice, long, hot shower, go to sleep, and wake up in the morning and worry about it again tomorrow morning. But they made the Egel. Aaron HaKohen told them that. He told them tomorrow. He was telling them, calm down. It's an Nesayin Hazman. An Nesayin Hazman. The uncertainties, the turbulence, you want to have answers to everything. When you have answers, you want to know. It's very, very challenging to really be able to know. It's not a halacha nevuah. Should we fast on Tisha B'Av? Nobody says, yeah, fast on Tisha B'Av. It's not a halacha nevuah. Nevi'im don't openly say they asked to Shaila and he gave a psak. That doesn't happen, certainly in Nevi'im Achrayim. It's a mahalach hachayim. The idea of a sasam v'simcha. Ramba b'nei hashemema. You know, when Yeshiel HaMelech hid the Aron, so Chazal tell us where he hid it, not the exact spot, but he hid it in the Lishchas HaEtzim. There was a room where they checked the wood. Wood that went on the Mizbeach couldn't have worms in it or anything else in it. And they checked the wood. There was a Lishchas HaEtzim. Lishchas HaEtzim was outside of the part of the Beis Hamikdash where the Avodah was done. Those of you who saw the picture of the Azara, the four big rooms in the four corners, one of them was the Lishchas HaEtzim. Yeshiel hid the Aron in the Lishchas HaEtzim. Why in the Lishchas HaEtzim of all places? I once saw, and unfortunately I don't remember from whom, who was in the Lishchas HaEtzim? The Gemara says the Kayin in Balei Mumin, a Kayin did Avodah. He had a Kayin, he had a Mum. Whatever Mum he had, Mum were not dafka tremendous handicaps. A certain, the Gemara says, the Rambam says a long nose is also a Mum. The Rambam describes how long a nose is too long a nose. Once told people if it's longer than your pinky. And suddenly I saw 200 people go like this, like it was very interesting. But if somebody's too tall or too short, there were people disqualified. Their father did Avodah, the brothers did Avodah, the whole Beis Av, and they were disqualified. They said, you can't do Avodah. And not fair, not my fault. My fault to have a long nose. The Balei Mumin went into the Lishchas HaEtzim and they checked the wood voluntarily. It's not a work of the Kayin. They wanted to have a yad. They were locked out of being makriv karbanis, pouring the sachim, lighting the menorah, bringing the ketairas. They checked the wood. The Beis Hamikdash, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave kedusha to. The Lishchas HaEtzim, they gave kedusha to. Leiv Nishbar v'Nitka, people who took a time of challenge. I'm sure they were sad. The word depressed might be appropriate. Remember, there's one day in a rotation that each family, each Beis Av comes to do Avodah, and they're disqualified. So what did they do? They went to Lishchas HaEtzim. So that's where the Oren resides. There's something to it. Rabbi b'nei Hashemema, b'nei Abu'ula Amar Hashem. And so, we live in uncertain times. We don't know where the train is heading. We don't know where HaKadosh Baruch Hu is taking us. It's clear HaKadosh Baruch Hu is bringing back Klal Yisrael to Eretz Yisrael. Slowly, throughout my lifetime, decade after decade, from different parts of the world. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is bringing Yidden back to Eretz Yisrael. It's astounding. Wherever you go, there's building taking place. There's a Gemara in Bava Basra. The end of Bava Basra, there's some Haggadah, at the end of the third parak. The Gemara there says that when Mashiach will come, there'll be buildings 30 stories high in Yerushalayim. I imagine when boys learned this for thousands, imagine the year 1100. Let me go about 30 stories high. How do you build a building 30 stories high? How do you get 30 stories? And the whole thing was an absurdity, 30 stories. Today you tell people in Yerushalayim you're building 30 stories high. They say, why only 30 stories? People answer. It's, the Gemara says that to touch up a pasuk. The Gemara not just I'm talking, pasuk in Zakaria. So we're seeing it. Where are we heading? We hope Mashiach is around the corner. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. To deal with stress in a healthy way. To focus on what's positive in life. HaRaviv, V'tzayim HaChamishi, V'tzayim HaShvi, V'tzayim HaSiri, Yu l'sasin l'simcha. Zman sheyeh shalom, yeh sasin v'simcha. You have to have it. You're all accustomed to being in a shul with duchening. I'm not accustomed to it. I'm from Chutz La'aretz. I go with a Bli Neder. I go once a week for Shachris to Sfardim and Flatbush. So once a week at least, I have duchening. It says you should be mechavin keneged hakayinim. You should have kavana to the words of the kayinim. What does that mean? The Torah of Schwab writes it means in a sefer on the Siddur. He says, Yivarechacha Hashem v'yishmerecha is for blessings of Gashmias. Yivarecha Hashem b'mamin, he brings from the Medrash, v'yishmerecha, from those who would take it away from you. The IRS. Yivarecha Hashem b'mamin v'yishmerecha, that's Gashmias. I'm reading Vaita, he goes to the second bracha. Yar Hashem panav elecha v'yichuneka. He says that's ruchnius. Yar Hashem panav elecha. The Or Hashem is ruchnius v'yichuneka. You should find chen later by Nishalem. There's one kayin who said it. It always bothers him. Yichuneka. Chenek is choking. Hashem should choke you. So he said, he didn't know when he's duchening what to think. So every time he says yichuneka, he thinks about our enemies. You choke our enemies. No. Yichuneka doesn't mean choking. What's Maitzichein mean? So I'm learning Rishwab. So Gashmi is the first one. This is the second one. What's the third bracha? The third bracha, he says, is Meluchas HaNefesh, is Shalom. What's bigger than Gashmius? The bracha in Gashmius has 3 words. Yivarech Hashem Yishmerech. The bracha on Ruchnius has 5 words. Yar Hashem Panav Yelech. Has 5 words. Third bracha has 7 words. Yasem Hashem Panav Yelech. Yasem Lecha Shalom. What's bigger? Meluchas HaNefesh. Bizman Sheyeh Shalom Yeshasem V'Simcha. Something else. If this Rav Schwab fits so beautifully, it's a mysterious Gemara in Megillah. It says 3 aliyahs during the week, 5 aliyahs on Yom Tif, and 7 aliyahs on Shabbos. Keneged Berchas Kainim. There are 3, 5, and 7. Why in the world does aliyahs have anything to do with Berchas Kainim? Kainim is very geschmack. The Berchas Kainim of 3 is Gashmias. That's a weekday. A weekday, a person's Isaac and his Parnasa. So it's Keneged the first bracha. Yom Tif is Aliyah the Regel. Yom Tif is Ruchnius. So your 5 aliyahs connected the second bracha. Shabbos is menucha. Shabbos is menuchas hanefesh. 7 connected the third. Yasen l'cha shalom. To have a calmness. It doesn't mean to have a calmness when everybody's calm around you. It means to have a calmness when there's a possibility of stress, of tumult. So sometimes you have to put up the dough and hope it doesn't turn sour. And sometimes it does. And you have to realize that that's the avodah. That's the avodah. Where does the bracha come from? Bracha comes from the times of turbulence, the times of challenge, the times you push through. That's from where the bracha comes. That when a person's able to be challenged and be Omer b'Nisayim. Rachel and Leah were sisters. They had very different tefillas. Leah davened for a shidduch with Yaakov. Eine Leah Rachel, she cried. Everyone said she's going to marry Esav. She cried for her zivug. She never cried to have children. She became pregnant the first night. Reishis Aini, Rashi says, the first time she became pregnant with Reuven. She cried for her husband, she didn't cry for children. Rachel was the other way around. Rachel, everyone said Rachel's going to marry Yaakov. And even when Leah was switched, Yaakov said, made a deal with Lavan, Mali Shvu Azais, Vekachal Gam Azais. She didn't go a day without knowing she's marrying Yaakov. But she cried for children. She didn't have children. She cried for children. The nitzchias, the forever of Leah, is that she's laying with Yaakov Avinu in the Maras HaMachpelah. What she cried for, that's her nitzchias. The nitzchias of Rachel is Rachel mevaka al baneha. She's buried in a place where her children walk by. Her gadlus is from the times of challenge, times of turbulence, from the times that the dough didn't rise, so to speak. And we want it just to go away. We'll have betach and everything will go away. We'll close our eyes and everything will go away. What are you doing? This is the time that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving us, testing you with this. If someone in Flatbush who has challenges with his children, he told me many years ago about a chizik he got from an Adam Gadol he went to. He said, I have 6 children. 3 of his children are challenging him with frumkeit. And 3 are, the self-pilot type, they're good boys. So he said, he told this Rebbe that he went to, that I never asked HaKadosh Baruch Hu for 6 children. He would have given me 3 children, I would be perfectly happy. So the Rebbe said, Bistanar, you're a fool. Before you were born, Hashem, the Kadosh Baruch Hu said, we're going to give him 3 challenging children. That's his tafkid. And Amalek said, Rabbi Yisrael, have Rachmanis on him. You can give him only challenging children? He said, okay, we'll throw in 3 easy children just to make it easier for him. He said, I thought my tafkid was the easy children. It was revealed to me. What's my tafkid? The turbulence. My tafkid is the bumps. This is my job. Challenging job. So, we come to Yom Noraim. It's hard to know what to focus on every year. Always hard to know. We live in a very turbulent world. You get dizzy if you have the bad fortune of reading the news. I'm fortunate to be here for only 2.5 weeks and shut out pretty much from the news. And, the world is doing quite well without me knowing exactly what's happening. But it's times of turbulence. It's a stressful, I don't mean dafka the politics of the world. I mean the opportunities that people have, the expectations that people have. So, Zakaria calls to us. And don't think Zakaria is only in the Bayesheni. Don't think he's only in the Bayesheni. To Rishonim and Rosh Hashanah point out that Mishnah that the Gemara is going on, the Gemara is talking about sending out shluchim to fast. It says 6 months a year they sent out shluchim to tell people when Rosh Chodesh is. Gemara says, why didn't they send on Tammuz and on Av? Why didn't they send on Tevis? Why didn't they send on Tammuz and Tevis for the fast days? Gemara says, because it's Yisroel v'Simcha, you don't have to fast. The Mishnah is talking after the Churban. The Mishnah says, 6 months a year they sent out shluchim. K'shahaya beis hamidrash kayim afal iyar b'nei Pesach Kat. It continues. And the Raja says, V'zman hazeh, the Raja Shita v'zman hazeh, if you're b'sasam v'sem, you're b'nuchas ha'nefesh, you don't have to fast. And even the Ritva says different. He says, because kvar kiblu alai. So, this is my message to myself, sharing with you as we go into the Yemei HaTshuva, to excel in the challenges of life, to do well, to have a positive attitude, in everything, to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for what you have, to be thankful to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Moedim every day for what you do have. It's healthy to focus on the brachas that we have, and then we can deal with the challenges that we have. We always say we hope the day will come that Mashiach will come, we'll all come back to Eretz Yisroel, and certainly we hope for that. Hope the day will come, if Mashiach doesn't come, that I'll personally be able to be here in Yerushalayim, Yer HaKodesh, more during a year, and to be able to be zeichet, to be like you, here all the time. And I work very hard not to lose the gaguim, the desire to be here, the appreciation of being here. Ashreichem that you're here, appreciate the wonder, appreciate that your Zaydis dreamt of it. Your Elta Zaydis couldn't even dream about being here. Gedolei Yisrael dreamt of making it here, and we're here. The good sky of Eretz Yisrael. And as Hashem, we should be zeicha that Mashiach should come soon. Until he comes, for every yachid, every one of us, it should be a sasein l'simcha. Thank you all.